Hello everyone, welcome back to our vlog number 3 with Stephanie Stevens, realtor and real estate consultant here in Hamptons. And before we get started with our today's vlog, we'd like to talk about a real estate event we had last night hosted by James Payton. Congratulations, James, on last evening's successful event. We had a really great time.
Yeah, it's really amazing that all the agents came out last night.
Yes.
Because the weather was horrible. The home is really nice, and when you get the opportunity, contact James and go see it.
Exactly. It was at 11 Walker here in Sag Harbor. Brand new house by Plum Builders, and beautifully done. Great location too, not far from downtown Sag Harbor. And it was great to see you, James, and all the other agents that were there. Addressing a hot topic, actually, because here in the Hamptons, rentals are seasonal. We've already been really busy in terms of summer rentals. So our state regulations for rentals has changed since last June. And how does that affect seasonal rentals here in the Hamptons?
In effect, mid-June of last year, New York State passed new rental regulations geared toward New York City tenants and landlords to better protect the rights of the tenants. However, in creating this law, they did not take into account the Hampton region and other regions in the state of New York that survive on seasonal rentals. The main points of contention with the law as it stands now for landlords is that in the past, seasonal rentals were paid in advance, in full, prior to the tenant checking in. Current regulations in effect now stipulate that owners cannot receive full payment. The landlord must be paid in monthly installments for the duration of the lease. So if you have a 3-month lease, you have to receive 3 separate payments from the tenant. In advance now, all the landlord can receive is their security deposit, which cannot be greater than 1 month, and the first month's rent. No longer can you get first and last and security for a seasonal rental in New York State. You can only get first month's and security deposit.
Whereas before, prior to last June, most landlords would request to be paid in advance for the entire season.
So if you were staying from Memorial Day to Labor Day and the cost of the rental was $85,000, the owner wanted the $85,000 plus the security deposit, and sometimes a utility deposit on top of that to cover utility expenses for the duration of the lease. Now they don't have that option. They must follow New York State law, which stipulates that they will not be paid in full, that they will receive monthly installments, and the kicker is even the deposit has to be returned in a different amount of time. In previous years, they'd always write into the lease 45 days to return the deposit because it usually took that long for you to get all the utility bills from the utility companies. And then you would send them an itemized bill less the deductions with the balance remaining. Now the new law states that it has to be returned within 14 days of departure.
14.
You can't even get LIPA to come to your house in 14 days to read the meter. So then for them to impose that on landlords, and now you got to get it back in 14 days, or if the tenant decides that, oh, you're not giving it back to me in 14 days, I'm going to take you to court, the penalty for that could be loss of the entire deposit, meaning you'd have to give it all back.
Which would be unfortunate.
Very upsetting.
Especially
if you have a pool or things that cause your utility bills to be extremely high in the summer, like AC if it's extremely hot and things like that.
Which brings me to my other question is, how do landlords have to protect themselves now? How do they protect themselves?
My advice is have a real estate attorney draw up your lease, one who's familiar with the new laws, who makes a lease that's airtight. It follows the rules and regulations and ensures that you get paid. Lawyers know the best way to operate within the law to get you, the landlord, covered. Don't go with a generic lease or a Bloomberg lease, because in actuality, the Bloomberg leases, which are leases that you can get in a bookstore or online, have not been updated to reflect the current rental laws. So use an attorney. That's how you get yourself covered, and then make sure you get paid. And if you know people who are in the business, in law, just say, look, do you know a good real estate attorney? And they will put you in contact with the best person that they know for the job.
Mm-hmm. As for renters themselves, how do they protect themselves? Because I'm just going to say it, there are a lot of people that come here to the Hamptons and to rent and attempt to scam their way out of paying for either the agent's commission or even for the rent. First of all, how do agents protect against that?
Agents have to have, in New York State, since 2018, I believe, you can no longer have your commission in the lease. You have to have a separate agreement with the landlord that stipulates who's going to pay your commission. Typically on seasonal rentals out here in the Hamptons, the landlords pay the commission. But in those cases where they say, no, I want the tenant to pay it, then you have an agreement that the landlord signs, the agency signs, and the tenant signs that stipulates who's going to pay the commission. Generally what happens is when the first installment comes, so does your commission. Mm-hmm. If you don't get your commission then, that's a red flag. And then you should reach out to the homeowner or the tenant or whoever's going to pay the commission according to the agreement that you have set up and say, where's my money? It's follow up and follow through. You'd be like, okay, hi, how are you? I see you sent the landlord's check, but you also need to send my commission and I haven't received it. And just be aware, not only in state regulations, but local regulations, villages and towns here in Long Island have rental regulations. You should be aware as a landlord what those regulations are. If you live, for example, in Southampton town, know that you're required to have a rental permit. That rental permit is a 2-year permit. It's renewable every 2 years. There's a process. Because when you fill out the application, you have to give and declare that the number of bedrooms, bathrooms. They make sure you have, if you have a pool, that you have security alarms on your doors. So in case there's kids in the house and they open the door to go outside, someone's going out toward the pool, that you have fire extinguishers, that your exits are clearly illuminated depending on how you have your house declared. If you have it declared as an investment or if you have it declared as a primary residence, the rules are slightly different but not very. And it ensures your protection. It lets you know that your house is up to code and that you have your certificate of occupancy and that you're aware of the number of people you can rent to and how long and how short the duration of your stay can be. In Southampton town, it's a minimum of 2 weeks. So you can't rent for 1 week because that opens up a whole can of worms for you. There's no house shares allowed in Southampton town. So say you rent to someone and they share your house with 15 to 20 of their friends. That's not allowed. Mm-hmm. You have to,
Thank goodness.
Your neighbors will call because there's people in and out of the house, it's loud. And not only can you get fined, but as well as the tenant. So just be aware of where you live and what the regulations are. East Hampton town has regulations as well. You have to have a rental registry number. Agents cannot rent your home if you don't have a rental registry number. We can't even advertise in East Hampton town your home if you don't have a rental registry number.
a certificate of occupancy.
Or a certificate of occupancy as well. And that's partly why these rules were put into place. Because it used to be the Wild Wild West out here. And you could rent your house any way you wanted. And then you had the share houses and the damage to your home because of no regulations or controls. So it protects you as a landlord. It protects the tenant because they know they're renting a home that's safe. And from someone who cares about their house. East Hampton Town finds not only the landlord and the tenant can find not only the landlord, they can find the tenant and the agency if you rent a house without a rental permit. So their regulations are a lot more stringent than Southampton Town, but Southampton Town may be in the near future moving to a similar regulations. They're kicking it around. Don't know if they're actually going to implement it, but
we'll let you know if they
we'll
do.
let you know, and it's something to keep an eye out for. If you have a rental registry permit already with Southampton Town, they will update you if any changes to requirements. Being a landlord, even if seasonally, you have responsibilities, and you need to be aware of those responsibilities and follow the local regulations. The minute you don't is the minute something will go wrong, because as Murphy Law stipulates, everything that will go wrong, can go wrong, will go wrong. Protect yourself by being in compliance before something happens.
And when in doubt, reach out to Stephanie, or reach out to your agent. You can never go wrong when you do that. Just cover yourself, right?
Cover yourself. If you don't know, ask, and ask until you get the right answers.
Yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little vlog on rental laws today, and we will see you next Wednesday. What are we going to talk about next Wednesday?
Oh, how do agents claim their listings on Zillow?
Until next Wednesday, have a fabulous week.
Yes, we'll see you next week.
Life was dull until you came. I was breathless when we first met. Couldn't keep my hands away. I was speechless.